Chapter 11 of Tractor Ballet Gone Bad. Ernie and Todd arrived at the big gate that separated the house yard from the barnyard to find I was already there with the gear laid out. Ernie watched skeptically as Todd and I began our preparations. I handed Todd a rusty old Bowie-style knife and an age-hardened leather sheath. "Ah, good," he said, securing it away in an inner pocket of his jacket. "Even better," he said when I displayed I was already packing a similarly sheathed old knife. Todd mimicked me as I tied a hatchet around my waist, knotted the ends of a coil rope together, and slung it over my neck, mountaineering style. "Damn good," Todd replied. "Oh, sorry, I got a little ahead of myself." "Good to go?" I inquired of Todd, handing him a T-bar. You know, a T-bar like a metal stake for a fence. "Damn good," he replied with a grin. "All this here rigmarole just to go down to the pond, Scotty," Ernie commented sourly. "You'd think we were setting out to conquer the Himalayas." "Take this," Ernie Todd said, thrusting another T-bar at him. "There's a point in time earlier I would have given my eye teeth for any one of these piece of here, what rigmarole as you just called it. Trust Scott, he knows what he's doing. I suggest you stick right to him when we get out past the barnyard. Follow him step for step. Put your feet where his were and stay focused." Todd looked up at Ernie from adjusting the hatchet tied at his waist, and seeing the sour, dubious look in his face, he said, "Hey, we're not pissing around here, Ernie. This is some serious shit." As we rounded out of the shelter of the yard into the open field, we were assaulted by the full force of the lashing winds. "By Christ, that's some wind," Ernie said in astonishment. Now, the ravine and the pond lay almost due south down the field. Although we started out headed pretty much in that direction, I found we were forced to go increasingly ever to the east. "Now, just a minute here," Ernie yelled out, sounded none too pleased. "Just where in the Sam hell do you think you're dragging me off to?" We huddled in the howling wind as I explained the need to choose our path cautiously. "Fair enough," Ernie said, still sounding none too happy. "Just seems like a damn convoluted route is all." "Trust him, Ernie," Todd said. "Watch his feet. He knows these fields better than anybody." "All right, Scotty." Bug running across there. "Carry on." We trudged another 100 yards or so when faced with a sheer patch of windswept ice too large to cross safely. I was forced reluctantly to turn to the north. "Now, just a damn minute here, Scotty," Ernie exploded. "It's too damn cold to be pissing around out here." "I ain't pissing around, Ernie," I said, stopping and wheeling back toward him. "You think I don't know where the pond is?" Ernie barked, still near enraged. "If you think you're going to haul me around out here on some damn fool wild goose chase, I'm going to be seriously pissed with you." Todd wisely refused to enter the fray and remained silent. "Have I ever pissed you around before?" I barked in Ernie's face. I let that hang there for a second. "Well, I sure ain't pissing you around. If you want, I'll take you back up to the house. Otherwise, we got to go around this ice and another 50 or 60 yards down to that fence before we're safe. I ain't pissing around. We ain't standing here. End of argument. Make the call. Forward or retreat." Seemingly stunned by my tirade, Ernie turned to Todd. "We ain't pissing around, Todd said with all due seriousness. "You might think we're a long ways off from down there, but if you come off the feet and the wind gets a hold of you, you'll be down there before you know it. I don't mind admit I'm scared just standing here, because I know what it's like down there. This is some serious shit, Ernie, and that fence right there is looking to a sanctuary to me about now." Ernie swung back towards me with round eyes. "We're courting disaster just being out here, Ernie," I said. "You just don't know it yet." "Well, you do strike me as being awful serious," Ernie said, shaking his head in some degree of wonderment. "I'm about ready to strike you upside the head and haul you down to that fence," Ernie Todd said. "Scott, get us out of here. I don't care which way, but I can't stand standing here any longer." I knew Todd wasn't hamming up the plaintive quiver that had crept into his voice. I'd found myself increasingly uncomfortable the further we'd gotten from the barnyard, and had been ever more desirous of the security that the fence provided the closer we got to it. "We go to the fence then," I announced, proceeding immediately off that way. Thank God, Todd said gratefully, and then hurriedly, don't lollygag, Ernie. We need his footprints to follow. Go, go, watch his feet. I got your back. Arriving at the fence without further incident, we found ourselves in the lee of a small knoll, somewhat sheltered all the more by the bare frame of an enormous weeping willow. As Todd and I calmed our frayed nerves, Ernie looked about, unencumbered by the need to watch his footing and mine. Is the whole farm one giant sheet of ice, Scotty? Ernie asked in amazement. Pretty much, I replied, sharing a grin with Todd. All but the barnyard and up at the corner of the field where the horses are. Well, that's why you've been feeding them there of late. I was wondering, Ernie commented, still looking about. Yeah, I continued, from the barnyard, that's the only place in the whole joint they can get to. It's astonishing. I don't think I've ever seen the likes of it, Scotty. You ain't seen nothing yet, Ernie said. Ernie, I keep getting that wrong. You ain't seen nothing yet, Ernie, Todd said, giving me a nod that meant, let's move out. With the fence in one hand and a T-bar in the other, the winds at our back, we slipped and slid and skated with ease down towards our objective. What are we stopping here for, Scotty? Ernie asked. The pond's a ways down yet, ain't it? Yeah, but we're here, I said, leaning my T-bar against the fence and pulling a coil of rope off over my head. Where's here? Ernie said, looking about. I don't see anything. You're about to, Todd said, watching me lash my hatchet onto the end of the rope. Watch this, Ernie, I said, tying the other end of the rope securely to a fence post. I flung the hatchet over the fence and it skittered across the ice as the rope trailed obediently behind it and vanished. What the? Ernie gasped. Yeah, we're here all right, Todd laughed. I'll go out first, Todd, I said, climbing over the fence. Wait till I get planted out there and then follow along behind with Ernie. Sounds good to me, Todd replied with enthusiasm. This is going to blow your fucking mind, Ernie said, lending a hand to help him over the fence. I stopped 20 feet or so back from the ravine's edge, and realizing I'd need to go further to allow Ernie to see all the way down into the bottom, I forced myself another 10 feet closer. I pulled the rope taut from the fence post and wound it twice around my left forearm, chiseled out a couple of rough footholds, and planting the T-bar firmly in the ice, called back to Todd. Okay, come on out, I'm planted. I didn't catch what Ernie said when they were about halfway out, but I heard Todd reply, told you it was going to blow your fucking mind. Ernie nestled up against my back and, peering over my shoulder down at the tractor, gasped in alarm. Excuse me, my God, he said, you're some damn lucky. If that thing had landed in there any other way than that, you'd have been squished. There's more than luck involved, Ernie, Todd laughed. I don't think Ernie even heard him. If she'd have turned turtle on you, Ernie's voice trailed off. I'm not liking it out here much, Ernie, I said over my shoulder. If you've seen enough. Yeah, I've seen more than I care for. How in the hell did you manage to get out of there, he asked, panting as he cautiously turned himself around. Oh, it just keeps getting better and better, don't it, Scott? Todd laughed as Ernie clutched onto his arm and they began their retreat back towards the security of the fence. Flexing my aching calves and trying to uncurl my toes, which had apparently been trying to chew their way through the boots whilst I'd been planted out at the end of the rope, Todd inquired of Ernie, did I hear you say you wondered how we got out? Do I really want to see this, Scotty? Ernie asked, weakly turning towards me. Probably not, I responded honestly, pulling the rope in and curling it up over my arm. Oh, it just keeps getting better and better, don't it? Todd laughed. Steel your nerve, Ernie. If you think that's bad, our next stop's going to leave you speechless. Our next stop, as Todd had referred to it, was very much like the previous. Why are we stopping here? Ernie inquired. Because we're here. But the pond's down there yet, you said. You fell through the ice in the pond. Yeah, but you wanted to see how we got out of the ravine. I think we're going to do it different this time, Todd, I said. I'm going to tie both ropes around my waist and take 2 bars. You feed me out the rope, tie me off to 2 posts, and then you and Ernie come down the middle of the ropes. What do you think? Is all this really necessary? Asked Ernie. Might not be necessary, Todd replied, handing me his T-bar, but it sounds damn prudent to me. Here, you take this rope, Ernie. Okay, Scott, careful. We'll feed you out and tie you off when you get as far as you dare. If Ernie had been astonished, amazed, and astounded by what he'd seen previously, the sight that lay before us now left him literally reeling. Looking down from our elevation above the end of the ravine made for a presentation even more terrifying than it had seemed when Todd and I had been caught down in it. Far better minds and pens than mine would consume paragraphs in an inadequate attempt to describe its horror. It was a damn scary sight. Good Christ almighty, Ernie yelled, clutching onto me. You came out through there? How? He squawked. Well, we worked our way off the ice there, Todd said, pointing over Ernie's shoulder, and then we worked our way across over there, and then it got real scary where it protrudes out over the water. What? Ernie squalled. You crawled across that? You wouldn't have had a chance, not a snowball's chance in hell. If you'd have tumbled in, you wouldn't have had a chance, not a one. What would possess you to do such a thing? He came to a halt, literally panting and trembling against my back. We didn't have a choice, Ernie, I said. It was that or stay up there with the tractor and freeze to death, Todd replied. Well, you wouldn't have had a chance down there. Couldn't you have figured out another way out, Ernie asked, still all a quiver. Looking at that, don't you think we exhausted any and all other possibilities long before we even considered it, I replied. Damn right, Ernie, Todd said. We spent a hell of a long time trying everything we could think of and more to get out of there before we had nothing else left but that. Well, Ernie, I said, we even considered and tried things we knew wouldn't work long before we came to this. Damn right, Ernie, Todd said again. Came to a point where I didn't even have to sell Scott on burning the tractor in the hopes that you or someone might notice the smoke. You'd have burned your tractor, Scotty? Ernie asked in astonishment. Rather than face that horror show, I replied, pointing downward. Fucking right I would have. We didn't have any matches, Todd said. Get me back to the fence, boys, Ernie groaned. My nerves are shot.